Good evening. We are picking up where we left off last time. Robbing a bank. Jigstraw, congratulations on being first. Trying to remember what I'm doing. I think I'm just grinding up money so I can get more things from the dark web. No, I've got everything from the dark web. I don't know why, but I do know that I need money, so... y'all are gonna have to provide. I do have a map. Oh right, the Longevity Labs. There was a boss fight there that I didn't do. Or, well, I did do it, but I lost. I gotta go there again. Sup, Brocaco. It's been a while. Also, yeah, the stream's running, so... yeah, if you can't see it, then, maybe refresh. Though I guess if you can't see it, you wouldn't hear this, so... hopefully he figures it out. This guy feels most comfortable when an evil dictator is pulling the reins. Make a chat. I mean, if he wanted, he could just, you know, do as I said. I don't mind dictating things. Maybe after this we can hit the gym, bro. I'm getting a little too circular. What is this? Wow, bro, you're not really engaged right now. Can you stay in your game with a slime video playing on your screen? Okay, I have to not get distracted. Last time I played this, I got distracted, and it actually got me killed. Ooh, that looks fun. It's like a lightsaber of some description. Looks like it really hurts. You feel like the timer would stress you out? I assure you the timer is giving me no stress whatsoever. Like, it doesn't run at all during dialogue or during boss fights, and usually I end up leaving with like minutes left on the timer. It's no pressure at all. Also, yeah, last week I did get got by the boss putting a slime video up. I was like, ooh, distraction. And then I got lasered. You like soap videos? Ow, fuck. I need a heart drop. I call shenanigans. I had cover. Then we go right back in. And all of a sudden, I can't aim. I enjoy the way the lights on them go out when they die. Just dead. Can I skip this dialogue? Doesn't seem like it. Oh, thank you for the hydration. I will do that right now. There's another one of these. Beep boop. That's Roblox for die, nerd. Oh, I just realized the, this weapon gives off more light than my other one. I never did figure out what that, meat-looking thing following me around does. It's stabbed through a wall, nerd. Not so fun when I'm the one doing it, is it? Beep boop. Shutting down. Shouldn't have skipped, like, day. Should unlocked, tickets hatched. And I got the red key card. New items on the dark web. And I don't remember where the red key card actually gets used. But presumably it's one of these things that I couldn't access before. Also, sorry for starting just a little bit late tonight. I was eating a little bit later than I normally do. Ooh. The abyss. Hello, Turnip Boy. You were able to destroy my panel, but you weren't able to destroy Widow or me, you woo. I've been starting my own underground fighting wing for funsies. I call it Quan Quan Other Side Kitty Cat Fighting Bonanza. It has a nice wing to it, huh? It'd be so all if you took a swing at it. Just walk into the arena and I'll swap some cute little baddies for you to fight. If you win, I'll give you a brimstone weapon. Best of luck, Turnip Tran. I mean, I do have boss weapons, so I think this one time I'll abstain. But maybe I should go. My health is getting a little concerning me, though. I just really like Cran Cran. Okay, what kind of price tag are we looking at? Premium train- whoops. Premium train ticket. Does that take me somewhere, or does that mean that I can use it for free? I suppose I'll find out, or maybe it's in my inventory. Train ticket choo-choo, or train ticket choo-choo. Goop boots. Rare artifact. The title Sir. Premium train ticket. Sun Saver and Kettle Blaster. Gives me a rocket launcher. Next up is a chainsaw. Don't mind if I do. I'm gonna go check out the train. Maybe the premium ticket will take me somewhere special. I just need to remember where the train is. Here it is. Premium ticket is infinite use. Okay, I think the premium ticket is just infinite use then. So I don't have to pay for trains. That's good. A one-time 10,000 payoff. Not gonna lie, kinda bought it by accident, but yeah, now I can just use that without having to worry about it. It still brings me great amusement that you literally rob people by picking them up and shaking them over your head. That's the mushroom thing. There's side quests in there to kill enough, enemies. We break the circuit box, and now we can get into the premium vault, where there should be an emerald of some substantial value. I enjoy the money vending machines. And it's all for me. Okay, that flamethrower thing doesn't really accomplish much by the looks of it. I'll just stick with the grenade launcher adjacent thing. feel like there was a quest that I was on. Oh right, I can also open red doors now. So I should probably go look for one of those. Ew. What is this? Hold on. Maybe draw a face one of these blueberries and add some sticks. I think that looks like a blueberry food folk.
Congratulations.
I found a fake blueberry food folk. It's not real. Interesting. Oh, that's the fake one that I take to the person who wants to eat a food folk. Okay, okay. The souls that I collected with the scythe, ended up disappearing, I think. Maybe they'll come back when I find a new scythe? Thank you. Oh my mush, my fix, finally. Look, Turnip, I'm giving you my prized possession. It sleeps with me every night. Thank you for the rotation. Here, take it before I change my mind.
Congratulations.
A sculpted rock. Those abs. You know, I tried to spend the souls, but I couldn't find it. Rather, I tried to put the scythe in the locker room, and I ended up not being able to do that. Also, I'm definitely noticing that, like, the weapons I start with are getting, like, really good to the point where I kind of don't want to put them down. Which I guess is part of the point of progression. My training in tourism hasn't prepared me for this. I've never seen this room. Proceed with caution, I guess. I'm Dr. Jennifer Dogna, most renowned of the renowned labs. But that's in another dimension. I'm not sure how I got here, but what an opportunity for research. I'm growing a super fox to see how it does here. You smell like a brave fox, but do you think you can take it? Just go press the button over there when you're ready. Defeat the super fox. I don't know if I can do it, but I'll certainly try. Also, these are like organic things. Oh no, it's got a gun. These are like organic things in a world of like fruits and vegetables. Well, I guess there was the bunny and the chief cops. Oh, it's on top, shoot. Okay. Some sort of egg. My health is getting concerningly low, never mind. Is it for me? And his head. I shan't be outfoxed. Oh, they're dead. I'm sorry. Hot dog, pup, you did it. Who's a good pup? Here, take this for your efforts. Fox hat, let's go. "10 out of 10 game, no notes." Thank you for that, Bats. Like, I was thinking to myself, there's not really much that could get me to take off the witch hat, but I mean... Fox hat is pretty nice. Here's the Dark Souls room. You got a ton of death on your hands, T-Boss. That's evident from these wacky souls you brought me. As a reward for these souls, here's my new hit. Death rate 3000. Bring me more souls. Oh, there's a song. Nice. You've proven to have the soul of a Sigma T-Boss. Yeah, good pep. I'm a fox, though. You're on that Sigma grind set, baby. Here's a reward for bringing me more souls. It's a classic. It's Soul Sigma. Keep the souls coming. I have so many souls. Hold on. You know this better than anybody, T-Boss. Cash is king. That's the name of another buff of mine that I'm giving you. You know the deal, T-Boss. Bring you more souls, you get more songs. Soul time. I made this song after those mushroom cultists used me for ritual sacrifice. It was lit. Here's my mycelium. Bring me more souls. Souls, 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 souls. I got an extended card for you, T-Boss. Here's Bill Collector's extended mix. More souls, more souls. Yeah, you want my latest hit single? You're going to need to bring me back 30 souls. Okay, I guess the counter just disappeared. Oh, it's the side again. Mike. These art candies are really good for soul collecting, I find. You see a fox-type creature running at you with a scythe raised over its head gleefully, chanting souls. On a scale of 1 to yes, how terrified are you? Kid, that was amazing. You truly do have Mafia in your blood. Atta boy. Happy face. Look, I haven't been completely forthcoming with you, kid. Eh? Stinky. There's a lot more involved with your mayor, with your father and Mayor Onion than I let on. I thought if I told you more, you wouldn't have taken the job. And I like money, kid. A lot. I don't know the full story, but I know Mayor Onion was working closely with Stinky. When your father passed is when Stinky took over this bank. We can finish this job and be done with all this, kid. We'll drink pina coladas on a beach far away from here. Just make it through this alive and find that mysterious motherlode, then we can all go find a new home. Okay? Don't go down there, ever. Cryptic crypt. I wonder if I find things with souls in them in the crypt. I seem to be finding pain. Hey there, Sweet Pea. Have you seen my hubby? His memory ain't what it used to be. He said he was going to be here hours ago. This hasn't meant so much to me. Mostly because he has our divorce papers. Could you find him and get them for me, hon? Just shake down old man line for the divorce papers. Hello? Looks like a boomerang of some sort. Or a boomerang. I was born here. Good for you. Yeah, Holy Cross from Castlevania. I've never actually played a Castlevania game. I played Bloodstained, which is basically a Castlevania game, but I've never actually played a Castlevania game. That's not entirely true. I played a little bit of Curse of Darkness, but I never beat Curse of Darkness. Curse of Darkness is another game that I actually want to go back to and play properly at some point. Oh, that looks like a better crossbow. This looks like a proper heavy crossbow. It's even got the thing on the front that you put your foot in. Ah, this one reminds me of my cousin. He's a tiki torch on a tropical island far away. This song is totally his vibe. It's called Veggieville DJ Sizzle Island Mix. Give it a listen. Souls, souls, souls. Yo, have you ever been to Brookella, bro? Take a listen to this song, Brookella. You'll feel like you're already there, bro. More souls, more souls. I imagine he probably wants like 45 mix. 40. Looks like there are some good things I can get from that, but it also seemed like there are a bunch of duds. And again. So I didn't find too much in the way of money, but maybe these are going to be worth some experience. Oh, it's the crossbow. So close to the chainsaw. Anything good on the dark web? Nope. Melee damage. Better gun luck. Trigger faster. I like this a lot, actually. More damage. And I'll take some melee because it's cheap. Faster reload is always good. I'm gonna go check to see if certain rooms are available over here. Yeah, well, upgrades are expensive. But, like, they let you carry more money, so they really do pay off. Can you give that rare artifact to my coworker in one of the vaults? Keep her on the down low. I will try to find your coworker in one of the vaults. What was I doing? Right, I was looking for... I was gonna check the, I was going to check the elevators to see if any of it was good. And I got that emerald down a bit, so it kind of was. I was gonna check for Cran, and then I was gonna go down the crypt. Because I really like it when Cran shows up. What's this one? Oh, it's the guy with the board. Oh, wow. This one's really handsome. Oh, I gave him the muscle rock. Okay. Didn't notice when I got this hat? Yeah, I killed a fox and I took its scalp. There can be only one. Well, what's this do? Magic. I like magic. How are you? How are you still alive? There was an accident. I saw you tripping a while ago and you looked pretty cool doing it. Why would I fall into radioactive sludge and melt half my face off? I don't even know how I'm still alive. I probably look pretty metal though. You kinda do, yeah. My health is concerningly low. My health is very concerningly low. Problem solved. Ow. Oh, does this pass through? Okay. This passes through obstacles, good to know. Yeah, that blood was just holding me back. It was weighing me down. Wait, Turnip creature, come here. I don't like her eyes, they unsettle me for some reason. You've got an aura about you, Turnip. There's more than meets the eye. I can sense that there's a lot of violence, crime, and questions that you seek. You lost your father, right? Did his name start with A? B? C? D? I knew it. And what's this? A sister? She's trying to find you. She says, you still owe me $20. She's somewhere down here, Turnip Boy. She's been haunting you, looking for closure. You must find her and bring her back here. From what I've gathered, the refugees here are a bit on the stranger side. They don't fit in well with the residents in the Sea Sock, so they begin to flourish here where they feel accepted among their fellow oddballs. When they lived in Veggievilles, they were more on the outskirts, more secluded. They're all perfectly pleasant, just a bit quirky in their own unique ways. And I can go through here because I have the thing, and oh hey, there's what's-his-face again. Bro, you here to duke it out again? I'm ready this time, bro. Oh, because it's the upper right of the map, that makes sense. Whoops, oh well. I failed to parse that this was not, like, a different longevity lab. Oh well. This is fine. Now that I think about it, bro, why'd I help you? This cardboard box will protect me, and by cardboard I mean wood. Ooh, saber. Give. And he's dead. This and nothing less is the price of defiance. Oh, also, Zurian, if you want to see what happens when the timer expires, you're about to find out. It's really not that bad. That's one I haven't seen before. Oh, finally, sustenance. I was never gonna eat you anyways. Turnips are gross and hard as rocks. Speaking of which, here's your payment. It's my pet rock.
Congratulations.
Okay, basically the only consequence for the timer expiring is more enemies start to spawn. Which, if you have enough violence within you, is really just an opportunity to make more money. And then we leave. Decent amount of money I think I made that trip. Yeah, no, like, it's very lenient, actually. Chainsaw. Consider me intrigued. Alright, alright. More melee damage. The only thing left to do is another wallet upgrade, which is 150. This is an incredible find, Turnip Boy. This kind of looks like an old world creature, but pretending to be a food though. Why is that their skin melted? They look a little paler and more malnourished than what I thought old world creatures would look like. This means that there must still be old world creatures roaming our lands. Have they just been hiding? Did they used to inhabit this building? Have they been here since the great mushroom giants or before? So many questions. It's not the fastest killer, but it's definitely fun. What's this? Gun's also fun. General Grapefruit. Are you trying to taunt me? You already ruined my life. Just go away. Oh, it's the Fox Super Boss level again. I'm getting plenty of goodness here. Keep it going, pup. I have another clone of the Super Fox. You want to give it another whack? Yeah, sure. Super Animal Super Fox. I like how the fox is using an egg as a weapon. And it's dead. Like, really fast, even. And it's dead, again. Oh, move on, we take those. Alt formed, Turnip. You is here and hole is deep and dangerous, which is good. Bridge is only way, but I point in left because you do not obtain a bridge. Need to buy a bridge on the dark web, okay. Oh. Hi, Turnip Boy, remember me? That's my mailbox. I'm your freaking mailbox. After your last adventure, you cast me aside here to rot, replace me with a damn app. I bet it doesn't even work, because at least I worked. Watch, it's gonna get something stupid. Watch it not even work. Don't even bother checking your phone. You're a clown. We got a new hat. Chat moment. Call for help. Who will? Look what you brought home. Oh, it's a dog. You've been impaled by a stick. I hate you. Bones, bones, bones. Oh, you did get me that. Damn it, it worked, didn't it? That's binary, but I don't know what that says. Ahem. I mean, hello, vegetable. Hey, another train station. Nice. I was like, do I have to translate this now? So yeah, it seems like my next thing is basically get enough money to buy the bridge on the dark web. Luckily, money is easily acquired in a bank. Oh, especially when Cran's involved. I'm pretty sure the binary was hello vegetable. I considered briefly transcribing it and translating it, but then I was like, you know what if I just didn't? And it seems to have worked out. Couple of brimstone weapons and a bunch of money. These golden statues tend to be worth a lot. What the mush? What are you doing, kid? Don't you dare shake me again. My wife said you didn't, she? I know 90% of Ford Fork managers end a divorce, so we could be that 10%. Okay, fine. Here they are. Tell her she's a big meanie, and I hope she's happy.
Congratulations.
Dang, they're laminated. Can't rip this. I choose to believe that, like, culturally, they just started laminating everything after the events of the first game. The presumption is now just that, like, any documents that exist will get torn up by Turnip. And then we made it out of the bank. Decent amount of cash. Those pickups are really worth a lot. Let's see, Dark Lab. Build a bridge, 150k. I'm just shy. I forgot to cash in my weapons. Sorry about the wall. Hold on, we're leaving. This is fine. Good. Okay, an emerald in here. You thought you were getting away without getting shaken down? How wrong we were. That's a big one. Worth about 20k on its own. Nice. I've got enough now that I can buy the bridge. Oh, I just realized that that piano is probably a reference to Super Mario 64 with the haunted piano and the big Busan. That's a dead rat. Destroy furniture. Very nice. Hello. What are you doing, you plebeian? Unhand me at once. Don't you dare shake me again. What kind of depravity is big dumb coin? Alright, I concede. I'm an intellect and don't take fondly to being shaken. I'm losing brain cells by the minute. Take the much forsaken GPU. If I find out that imbecile is playing Fork Fight during work hours again, there will be much to pay.
Congratulations.
Oh, right, I wanted that for... yeah, the guy in the office. His boss took his GPU because he was gaming at work. Oh, hey, Super Fox. Is it just me or does this one look stronger? Suppose we'll find out. just realized my health is once again concerningly low. Never mind. Ooh, disapproval. It's a gun that shoots disapproval. Your game sucks, it's too short. And the fox is dead. It would not surprise me if that was at least inspired by our real review at some point. I wonder if that whole thing is like a reference to some other property by the same developers. Looks like a very annoying boss fight need lost quickly, so they nailed Fox. Nice. You're not wrong. I'm in this picture and I don't like it. I think I'll probably get the next weapon from these. Gamer Rage, it's called. Build the bridge. Alright. It's definitely a little bit more difficult to hit enemies with the rocket launcher. Oh hey, another box fight. Okay, the cooldown on that one's pretty intense. Oh. Here's the gun that goes really hard. And he's dead, again. I'm not sure what reward there is for that, other than the satisfaction of proving myself the stronger fox. Bridge is only way, foolish turnip. Do not attempt jump. Jump equals expiration of non-linked life form. Well, I have a build to bridge platform, so... this is fine. I like how it's just made out of bones. I'm ruined. Oh, you petulant vegetable. I've been single for far too long. I sit here and brood my days away, always brooding. How did your term... my bones, your bones, bones, bones... how did that get caught for sexual content? Oh, you petulant vegetable. I've been single for far too long. I sit here and brood my days away, always brooding. I thought I was being mysterious and brooding. I thought others would flock to me. But alas, being surrounded by coffins and bones has left me loveless. Wait, yes, what do you think would love me? Her name is Cran Cran. This is all happening so fast. I gotta get spiffed up. Oh my. I have to write them something before we meet. Yes, a love letter and some beautiful stationery will swoon anybody. Please take this to them. I've written a bunch of these, so I'm always ready.
Congratulations.
Some kind of ghost girl. Aw, it's home. It's all on fire. I guess it's the view out the window. Ugh, my moral compass, it's driving me crazy. I'm conducting this experiment trying to fuse a bunch of blonde berries into some amalgamation you see before you. I call it Frankenberry. Frank for short. The only problem is I just don't know if I can ethically go on. My hypothesis is that once I zap it with a bunch of electricity, this thing will awake, but what happens then? Does each individual part have its own thoughts, feelings? Am I creating one being or a bunch of beings stayed together? These are too many thoughts to think right now. I need somebody who can tell me if this is morally just or not. I've heard that there's a thinker in this bank that can set this straight. Once they tell me I'm good, I'll feel better about this. My moral compass will press on, and I'll be the greatest scientist known to food folk kind. Pitiful pit. Oh my. That's a hand with a pickle on it. That's vaguely horrifying. Where is my coffee? Uncle Rigsby. Kid, I don't know what to say. What is that? What are those sticks coming out of its body? I mean, Mayongan looks freakish when he took God form, but this is another level. Okay, pep talk time. A good old team morale booster. Alright, listen kid. Your dad and I, we had our differences. I can't deny that. We were young and we were running the farm patches wild, but he was a good man. He was tough and had grit, just like you, kid. I don't think there's much turning back now anyways, with everything that's happened. We just gotta get through this and out of this mush-forsaken bank alive. We'll figure out what's next after. You got this, kid. I believe in you. True owner, Uncle Rigsby. He's got a sword in his head. Oh, he's got a lot of health, but I've got a lot of bullets, so it works out. I'm out of bullets. I'm in danger. My brother. Where is my brother? I was eating a sandwich when he called. Then the bomb drops. Where is my coffee? I really need an ammo drop. Again, maybe this will be enough by itself. My niece, she whispers to me, "What did you do?" No sugar, venti, cold foam, 2 pumps of mocha. Actually, this one might be enough by itself. It's hitting him a lot. Killed another human. Alright. Yeah, that worked out. Ooh, big sword. I like. Purple key card. We searched every inch of this much-forsaken bank. Every inch. We've seen some things I'll never be able to get out of my pickled noggin. A freakish food book with 6 growing out of it, soap videos, awful architecture and floor plans, and for what? You're sick of it, eh, you dumb pickle? I'm sick of it. You've ransacked my bank through and through, all for your futile attempt to find this mysterious mother lode. I've earned this pay, blood, sweat, and more blood, because I never cry. You don't know the things I did to get this bank, you fools. What I had to do to earn my fortunes, my sports car, my gold. You haven't earned it. I'll always be right under your noses, always a step ahead of you. Wait, right under our noses? I didn't even think. Annie, moving in and tell them what's under the bank? I didn't even think about what could be underneath. I was only looking for files of the bank layout itself. Alright, I'm gathering intel. 1 sec. Hacking in. Beep boop. Bop beep. Got it. Okay, Turnip boy. There's sewers right under the bank. I can't find exactly where the entrance is, but it seems to be somewhere in the center. That's gotta be where the mysterious mother lode is. And there's something new on the dark web. I like this sword. It's cool. It does a lot of damage. I didn't actually pick up all that much, but what I did pick up was worth a fair amount. Unfortunately, this is a familiar scene. After God Onion crashed into Veggieville, the landscape was littered with rubble, meteors, and fire. And then the war happened, and well, you know, there isn't much left. Wait, what's that? It seems as though your little battle with God Onion brought out some sort of contraption? I've never seen anything like it. Crowbar and Tangerine Dog. Alright. Biggest money bag is 150k. Achievement unlocked, all natural. Atomizer. That's max level weapon research. Okay. A lot of damage. We're gonna take a 5-minute break here. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom. Anything that would take you about 5 minutes. I will see you shortly. I return. It also occurs to me that because I don't need to cash in weapons for experience anymore, if I find a weapon that I like, I can just keep it. So I actually want to go back and kill What's-His-Face again, because I really like that giant sword that he had. Pretty sure that the idea is it's one of those swords that you like use to hold sandwich together. But it did big damage and had a really big area of effect, so I wish to obtain another one. Also, thank you so much for the head pats. I asked for iced coffee, not hot. Where's my brother? I was eating a sandwich when he called. My niece, she whispers to me, "What did you do?" I wonder if his niece is the pickle on his hand. Giant sword, please, thank you. Thank you very much. I also still need to talk to the thinker guy, so that I can get assurance that abominations against life itself are morally upright. Yes, right. Uh-huh. Oh, me? I'm just thinking it was Storm over here. Oh, that was a good one. I gotta write that one down. I'm the best thinker that ever thumped. They're even making a statue of me in my honor. What was that you say? You have a moral quandary you need the thinker to think on? Oh my, that really is a conundrum. Huh, yes, thinking. Thoughts. Okay, I got it. Here, take this to them. Hopefully this gives them the thunks they're thinking for. It
Congratulations.
literally just says pace. I adore this game's humor. Oh, there's the weapon store. And here's where I can get some more souls. I might hold on to this weapon for a little bit because I can use it to harvest souls, and I can use this one for damage. Pitiful pit. I have to jump down it, don't I? No, this is where that boss was. Center courtyard. Okay, never mind. Yes, that's a disc launcher shooting records. And if it kills something, it removes their soul from their body. Which I can then pick up. Oh, here we are. Manhole cover. And I got a crowbar. What? Here? No way. Mysterious motherlode? Here? In the sewers? Yeah, right. Lots of dead rats. Like a concerning number of dead rats. Oh, boss fight. Live rats? Hey, I see you eyeballing me. I thought I told you to get lost. Oh, are you looking at my sody pop? Alright, okay. You actually think you can take my carbonated beverage? Dude, I'd like to see you try. This guy really thinks he can waltz in here and just take my drink? This is the funniest thing I've heard all day. Okay, try me. Let's see what you got. Go on, take it. We could be here for thousands of years and I bet you'd still be stumbling over yourself trying to take it from me. After all, how could a...
Congratulations.
It's literally just soda. Oh crap, I dropped it. Fine. That's a freebie. Conductor onion. I bought this plot of pipe for $500,000. The cost is fine because it's technically a waterfront. That sure is one way to think of it. My friend vanished to this wall here. I'm too spooked to check it out myself, so I'm kind of just sitting here. While I'm here, what are your thoughts on the controversy? You know, the controversy. What, do you live under a rock? Hello? Eh, this is really unsettling. Are these the back rooms? I'll stay here for a bit, though. I'm taking a break from my friend. They won't stop talking about the controversy. I have no clue what they're even referring to. Oh god, oh shit. Oh, it actually just killed me instantly. There was a good thing in there that was like stalking me. I didn't even see it. Alright, that just happened. What is that? That is gonna haunt my nightmares. Did you meet the guy who's running the shop you'd like to buy from? He doesn't seem too happy that you found him. Oh, that's the dark web guy. Jeffrey. Okay. I didn't even realize that was him. Well, that just happened. Oh, I did lose the record launcher, though. That's unfortunate. And my sword. That's sad. I guess I lose my weapons if I die. I guess that makes sense. Well, I still got the atomizer, so it's powerful. I just really liked having the giant crystal sword thing. Oh well. I'm gonna see if I can find that guy again. I'll go this way first, giant rat. Rat noises. Okay. Yeah, I guess he must have spawned when I took the picture. Fair enough. I love rats, but I don't want to become one with the rats, or they won't accept me as one of their own. I'm wearing this hat now, but I don't want to be rude. Would you be willing to ask if it's okay if I can wear this hat? I just really like rats. Rat noises. Sorry, I'm just practicing. Ask a rat if it's okay for the rat friend to wear a rat hat. Easier to ask forgiveness than permission, I suppose. Approving rat noises.
Congratulations.
Rat pass allows somebody to be a rat. This is the last time I will speak to you in our native tongue. From now on, I am rat. Rat noises. I wonder if putting on the rat hat would make him talk to me in something else, or... Nope, okay, back to Vox. Kid, I'm serious. This isn't worth it, Turnip Boy. I used to know Sneaky very well. We had the same job back in the day. It's not just treasure you're gonna find at the end of this. I've crawled through slush to tell you this. You have to listen to me. Kid, I'm serious. This isn't worth it, Turnip Boy. Oh, you're just gonna say the same thing over and over again? Nope. Oh my! I promised I wouldn't cry. Look at all the gold! Oh, definitely so. Thank you so much for the subscription. Look at all the gold! Wait, where's Stinky? Ooh, money gun. Oh, it's literally fueled by money. Oh, thank you for the rotation and the hydration. Okay, so it's one shot for every $5 by the looks of it. And that's a Gatling gun with money, okay.
Congratulations.
Golden ring, fancy. Your next tricky cast exposed tummy. Yes, this is my OG avatar, which did in fact have an exposed tummy. That vault door is probably worth so much, and we're just blasting it open. Oh. Oh shoot, wait, I have a son? Shit, didn't I tell him I'd get him milk or something? I'm sure it's fine. Sad little Sonko. Ooh, giant, thing. That's $1 million all by itself, okay. Stay away from me. Don't come any closer. You'll suffer the same fate that fell your father at my hands. Aha, that stopped you in your tracks. How do you think I got this bank, you sniveling turnip? Mayor Onion came to me to get the job done, to restore some dignity to the Turnipchino name, to all mafioso everywhere. Your father, he got too soft for the role of Don. Probably because he had some snot-nosed kid to take care of. What? You gonna cry? Your father didn't even see it coming. Don't mess with me, Turnip. What? Don't believe me? Go check out that chest over there and see for yourself. Is that my sister? I found my dad's old things. Bang. Me and Dad, Don's fedora. I miss you. Oh, this conversation went run, 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 run. Yesterday was very bad. New friend. Reminds me of Stinky. Why do the eyes look sus? She's armed and loaded. First official shot of them in food folk history. Ooh, what is this of? Graffiti guy is doing a vandalism. I looked up to him as a fellow veggie does crime. I miss you, Dad. You son of a... He's gone, that coward. Oh, and I got Dad's revolver. I like the noise it makes. I'm gonna hire this lowlife to assassinate Dawn. There's a code we live by, to kill a Dawn without a fair fight. He didn't even get a chance to fight back. I may not have liked the guy, but he deserved better. Just let me think. As much as you probably hate him, as do I. I think we just need to go, Turnip Boy. Let this coward live in squalor while we take his riches. There's been a lot of killing, Turnip Boy. Mayor Onion, the war. You know what? We're taking the whole bank. Get back to the warehouse. I got a plan. I mean, personally, I'm down to kill him. Oh shoot, it's the ghost of my father. With a hole in his head. I have no rocks for him. Isn't that the title of a Bill Cosby movie? I don't know. Like the ghost of my father with a hole in his head? Ghost that, gotcha. You know, I basically know nothing about famous people. This is really bad. Your father must be turning in his grave. You know, I feel like you're shaking the bejeebus out of me. Help me back problems. Feel free to continue. I guess the $1 million is to make it so that you can buy any upgrades you don't already have. Like, obviously it's just cool to get $1 million, but I presume it's so that, like, you can have everything at the end no matter what. That's what I assume, at least. Please stop asking me for money. The icon is like the two of them laying on the thing. I was in front of it, I just realized, I'm sorry. He snapped you with the kid. Come here. Okay, kid, hear me out. We're taking this bank to the moon. We're gonna need some serious machinery if we're gonna break through the atmosphere. Go check the dark web for some boosters. Go, go, go. I jet boosters on the dark web. Turnip Boy, I'm so sorry. Your dad seemed to have a lot of love for you. He would have been proud. Oh. Jet boosters 900,000. Achievement, 5-star customer. Alright, kid. I don't know how you'll do it, but with your mafioso blood, anything's possible. You have to take these boosters from the dark web and place it on every corner of the bank, so I guess it's a boss rush. We're gonna have to kill everybody in that room to do so. We need these perfect boosters perfectly in the middle of each corner, according to Annie. That son of a fart can't get away with what he's done. We're taking this whole bank, and it's the last thing we do. He broke Mafia code. Now he will lose everything. Get going. So yeah, boss rush. Steal the bank itself. Cran first. What's this? Is this a WOV dissertation? He's 7 feet tall, and he has whipping wag muscles. What a hunk. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Here, let me draw something. It's been done. This'll show them that this Granny's down to clown.
Congratulations.
Wow, that's a picture. Romantic drawing. I'm gonna start with, what's his face? The original owner. So I can have the sword for the rest of it. Uncle Wakesby. Yes, I do have a side quest return to the mushroom cult, the quest for destroying 1,000 pieces of furniture. Where's my brother? Where's my coffee? Yeah, that gun that shoots money is fun and all, but I think I'll drop it. My niece, she whispers to me. And they're all dead. Beep boop. Place the booster, Turnip boy. You can put it right in the middle, boop beep. Alright. And we build a booster out of bones. Alright, kid, that's 1 down. 3 to go. How do you even carry these things? You truly do have the power of a god killer, bud. Look, partner, contractually I'm set. My contract says I gotta fight you at least 1 time. Only once. Other than that, I'm napping. If you provoke me again, Turnip, I'll go kitty mode. Try me, Turnip. Alright, Turnip, you asked for it? You want to serve my nap, Sergeant Yeehaw. I wanna see kitty mode. Old Sneaky's hired us to keep this here bank in its secret safe. Get him, boys, yeehaw. Technically, my name is Yeehaw Junior. My papi is Yeehaw Senior. Alright, cowboy, giving you one last shot to start to here, so drop your gun and stick your hands up. Wait, we don't have hands. Never mind, get him, boys. I've seen thing, Turnips. These goblins tried to slice me up, fry me, and serve me on a platter. And he's already dead. I didn't even see him die, if I'm being entirely honest. I've eaten my last haul. Beepity boop beep. Alright, place the second booster. I'm linking these up to the control panel as we speak. Wow, kid, these bad boys are gonna go for miles. 2 more to go. I can almost smell the pina coladas. Wait, I never realized there was a door down there. Huh. I mean, it makes sense, I just never realized it. Rotten junky candy apple. Oh yeah, one cycle. Boop beep. We're almost there, Turnip. I'm coding the launch procedure as we speak. Beep beep boop. One more. You got this, kid. Is that a photo that I haven't taken yet? Actually, I think that's the one with the portrait. I'm only missing one photo, so I'm kind of on the lookout for it. Oh, you here to duke it out again? I'm ready this time, bro. How about a sub video? I like this giant sword. I really do. I like how the handle has a handle because the handle's too big. And he's dead. Beep boop, shutting down. Shouldn't have skipped, like, day. Boop beep boop. Last one, Turnip. Then we can press that launch button. Boop beep. We're at the home stretch. Go to the control panel in the center courtyard to launch this BB into space. I do enjoy a good old boss rush. And then we blasted into space, just like we said we would. We flippin' did it, kid. Pina coladas in retirement, here we come. Halt, Earthlings. Is that my father? Space worm thing? With my father, like, integrated? Not so fast. It's time to exterminate these light forms. Nothing is ever easy. Annie. What the hell is going on? I don't know, boss. Let me see. One moment. Beep boop. Bop. Beep. Bippity bop. Okay, got it. Those are extraterrestrials. I gotta start saying that whenever I'm programming. Just like beep boop. Bippity bop. As my headset just cut out like the least opportune time. These are extraterrestrials. There's evidence that Turnip Boy's payable fight with Godong and got the attention of some whatever these guys are. At this point, I'm not surprised. Alright. I got a plan. We just slow this bank down, shut off all the boosters, and run for your life. See you later, Space Turnip. I've never actually seen Cowboy Bebop. I like how they disappear into dust. Is this a Vocaloid song in the background? It sounds like Hatsune Miku singing. To the moon, Turnip Boy. 3 more to go. If this isn't Hatsune Miku, I'm very curious as to who it is. Because it sounds just like Hatsune Miku to me. I'm getting tired just watching you run. 2 more to go, kid. What even is this BGM? Hold on. Can't stop, cannot deny my heart. Alright. I'm just taunting you how incomprehensible all of this. Yeah, it sounds like a Turnip Boy game. Keep going, kid. You've only got 1 more. Also, apparently they're working on a 3rd one. Turnip Boy Steals the Mail. It's not currently out yet, but it says coming soon on Steam, so... Going for the sword with the massive arc, definitely paying off. Nice. Lead it back to the courtyard now. We gotta prepare for the landing procedure. Go press the button on the control panel. I like how the earth just has a frowny face on it. You've proved to be troublesome, Earth Vegetable. It's no matter. The giant death laser is ready. Hey kid. I've been aimless for a long time, Turnip Boy. I'm getting old, and after being imprisoned in the jar and going through the war, I found myself without purpose. This job was meant to be my final hurrah, and, well, it definitely hasn't gone exactly to plan. It was a pleasure working with you, kid. You're the son I never had. The son I wish I had. I could never replace your real dad. I know that. But I know he didn't get the chance to give you a proper name. I now name you Don Turnipchino II. Goodbye, kiddo. But at what cost? I'm actually a bit touched.
I hope you've all enjoyed tuning in all these years. We've got one last song for you here at Snoozy Radio to go with you on this long road ahead. If there's anyone out there who makes it off this doomed little rock, this one's for you. It's called The Bandit.
So that was Turnip Boy Robs the Bank. Honestly, legit, 10 out of 10 game. I can't think of a single thing that would make it better. Like, it even had boxes. You know, perfect example of a short but sweet game. It showed up, it did exactly what it wanted to do, and then it left before it got stale.
So despite it might be just, but in the end it's evident I'm not so different than he was. If you leave the ground behind you, know the sky can look so grand. Know the golden light can blind you, and you'll trip back down to land. And maybe you'll be better, son, but we got what we deserve. Our roots are in the garden, son. You'll always miss the dirt. I was abandoned, a no good crook. And if you think twice, take another good look. A grave full of lies and the fortune I took. Never look back, even if I should. You're abandoned, so run while you can. Eye on the prize, gun in your hand, a glimmer in your eye, like you're old man. Never look back, even if you can. You're abandoned, run with the bandit. You're abandoned, run with the bandit. You're abandoned, run with the bandit. You're abandoned, run with the
Did I ever find my sister? I think that there was a female ghost following me in the crypt at one point, but I don't think I ever properly formally found her. But given that it's...
We got Braun and a new gang dawn. The same old tune with the new twang on. The same
Even though she's hanging out with the ghost of my father, she's probably my sister.
making for the stars with the mother load. I'm the next for success. I'm the new top brass. Same old cops on my tire tracks. The same gold trim on my fresh press suit. The closest I'll ever be to you. I'm a bandit. Run with the bandit. I'm a bandit. Run with the bandit. I'm a bandit. Run with the bandit. I'm a bandit. Run with the bandit.
Sopra used Game Maker F Unity Woo. I just saw that. That's really funny, actually. I love it when they put pets in the credits. Thank you for playing. Thank you very much for making this game. It was a delight from start to finish. It looks like we're back in time to before everything happened. So I guess I can just keep playing. And I guess I would start the final sequence again by doing all 4 bosses and putting down the boosters again. So the rest of this we're just doing for the love of the game. I'm just here for crimes. Oh, whoops. I actually forgot that this guy was here. Like, legit, I forgot that this guy was what was behind that door. Crimes and headpads, the 2 things a fox needs to survive. I will say I really do enjoy the game trope of, like... Actually, never mind, I was thinking of something entirely different. I was gonna say, I really like it when, like, the starter weapon, if you hold on to it until the end, becomes, like, one of the best weapons in the game. But I kinda just got this revolver for free, so it doesn't really count. Place the booster, Turnip boy. Or I could leave. Eureka! Frank, my son! Oh, hey Turnip. I can explain. I decided, why not? Science is about exploration, and that lever was really shiny. I just decided to go for it. You have documented thoughts from the thinker? I'm a little nervous. Let me see. Well, he sure is succinct with his words. Now I can go on with a clear conscience. Thank you, Turnip.
Congratulations.
Geodrock, nice. Hey, the name's Frank. How you doing? Oh, me, you know, I'm having an existential crisis, but other than that, I think I'll be fine. At least they're living their... I don't want to say best life, because they had another one that was probably better, but they're living a life. Here's my sister, I think. She gets me. She perfectly depicted my physique, my height, my charm. I'm excited to meet this exquisite cranberry. I owe you many thanks, Turnip. Here, take this. Hopefully you can pawn it or something of the sorts. You're looking a bit ragged.
Congratulations.
Candy ring. Oh, that's something I can give to the guy who wants to marry his wife. Wait, didn't I get a gold ring a while back, too? Ooh, a fox. What if I, like, give him the gold ring and he's like, no, this sucks. It needs a giant gemstone. Or something like that. Super fox. You know, this guy just rips through the poor thing. Return to the Shumari cultist, taking care of the security guards. And he's dead. I like how it keeps putting down a gravestone each time I kill him. Interesting, it's like a Infinity Gauntlet almost? I forget what I was doing. All I know is that I must kill. Stop slaking, what's poppin'? You have to make it quick though, and still on stream. Oh, yes, the painter. I need to pay her. Okay, yes, give me a second. I can't wait to see my portrait. It's going right behind me so people on stream can see it. Here, this should suffice. A shout out on my channel is all she really needs to kick off her career.
Congratulations.
I've had exposure bucks. They're worth nothing. You know, the thing I saw once, which has stuck with me, was if you are big enough that exposure from you is actually worth something, you can afford to pay the people you commission. have you seen a kiwi around? He's something of great importance to me. Wait, you're delivering it? He must have gotten lost. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Here, take this. It'll help you in the future when you're doing illegal things. No one ever suspects the person with the hard hat. That reminds me of another, like, crime tip that I saw a while ago. You can get into most places if you are white, carrying a clipboard or a ladder and walking like you know where you're going. People just will not stop you from going anywhere. Yeah, high visibility vest would help too, probably. But I guess that's more if you're, like, working, more so than just carrying a clipboard. I don't have a high visibility vest, but I do have a clipboard around here somewhere. If I ever feel like doing crimes, I might try using it. I've worked at a grocery store before. I could totally sneak in the back and pretend I knew what I was doing. I wouldn't. Not actually. Don't ever take that as an admission of guilt in a court of law, but... in Minecraft, I have the means and the know-how to do crime. Look at how big that gem is. Turnip boy, this is perfect. She's gonna love this. This will really show her how much I love her. Alright, whoa. Now I have to summon up the courage to ask her for a leaf in marriage. You gave me a ring with a big rock. You gave me a ring with a big rock. I suppose I should give you a different rock that is very close to my heart. Here you go. Take good care of it.
Congratulations.
Trans rock. Trans rights are human rights. They absolutely are. Okay. I saw you two whispering over there. What's going on? Are you trying to steal her away from me? Look, she is beautiful TV. Everybody here is always trying to work with their wiles on her. How can I stay silent when people come up and ask her for her flowers? I know she's a florist, but, okay. I need to matrimony her right now. You know, marry her, TV. I need to get her a ring. I think she'd like selling gold. Please, you gotta help me. Or else her blueberry milkshake is gonna bring all the food folk to the yard. Okay. This looks expensive. This will work perfectly, TV. This will definitely show how much she means to me. You know what? I can't wait any longer. I'm just gonna propose right now. Quick TV, snap a photo. Oh, there's the photo I was missing. The big prop. I'm so happy for them. I wonder if one of them is meant to be trans. That would explain the trans flag and the trans rock. I don't recall if either of them was presenting male in the first game, but if they were, that would explain it. Oh, thank the mush. I was trying to play it cool when she stopped talking to me. I have so many bills now. Rent, food. Wait, what's this? Exposure bucks. Wait, can I buy anything with this? Well, I gotta figure something out now. Here, take this extra hat. I have no money to give you anyways. This is all I got. I need to re-roll the extra rooms so that I can get the guy with all the rocks. Huh, this is cute. I never made time for love. My true love is knowledge. When I see this, though, I do get a little jealous. It's okay. I don't think anybody that I would be with could stand my schedule or my fixations. It's better this way. I could be married to my work. Aw, poor thing. Turnip boy. Sometimes in the pursuit of knowledge, we learn things we don't necessarily want to find out. The truth can be really hard, but it's important that we know the whole picture now. I'm so sorry about your dad. It wasn't a scientific discovery, but it was definitely the most important one that we made here. I typically don't get involved in this kind of drama. I just go to who's willing to fund my research. This time, it's different. I'm with you all the way, Turnip boy. Let's finish what we started. Here, take this. You've been my helper through all of this. I know more about the old world. I have so many more questions. Regardless, you deserve the hat of an explorer. Oh, there's a dog with a thing. Oh, I can pet the dog. 11 out of 10 game. You can't research the dance gun. That's good. You shouldn't be able to. Yeah, this was a 10 out of 10 game. There was no way they wouldn't let you pet the dog. Ah yes, thank you, Sweet Pea. Getting these papers signed was a long time coming. It's time for me to let loose and live a little. I'm only 7 days old, after all. Now that that grump is out of my life, it's time to hit the clubs. Fancy glasses. Nice. Puppy. Oh, super box again. I'm running a little low on time, so I'll spare this one. I just need to keep re-rolling the elevators until I get the guy with the rocks, because I think I've got all the rocks to finish him off. Oh, this one's iridescent. I wonder what that means. Oh, return to the Shuma's cultist. That's another thing that had to get done. Hopefully I can finish everything in time. Lots of money. I'll never really turn my nose up at a quantity of money, I think. Oh, Super Fox again. If at all possible, I would like to finish those other quests, though. How many things are even left to do? Tasks. Steal the bank, harvest 40 souls, return the sody pop to the onion, return the GP to the office beat, find your sister and bring her back to the medium. Okay, so I gotta grab her while she's a ghost. Brutalize 102 cops. Return the food certificate to Ravioli. Bring the sad pie more rocks. There's a bunch of stuff still floating to do. Alright. Yeah, Turnip will never have to work another day in his life, and you'd better believe he's never paying taxes on any of it. Ordinary office. No way, is that what I think it is? My GPU? Thanks so much. To make this worth your while, you can take one of my rare non-fungus trinkets.
Congratulations.
It's worthless but uniquely rewards. Oh, it's an NFT. It's worthless but uniquely yours. Iridescent ball. Remember that one post where like the NFT bro was like We need to find some kind of technology that, like, blocks things from being captured with print screen or right-click save. And it's like, I don't think you understand how JPEGs work. This game is just plain fun. I like it quite a lot. Alright, I guess I'm just not getting lucky with the elevators. It is what it is. At least it's not hard to build up a big cash stack now that I've got, like, iridescent drops from everything. Well, I suppose we'll call it there for the night. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it each and every time. Next scheduled stream is going to be on Friday. It's probably going to be more Safe Samurai, what? More Fate Samurai Remnant. As what I'm doing next Wednesday, I have not decided yet. But there's, I think, not enough left in Turnip to really put another stream into it. Yes, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it each and every time. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful night. I hope to see you again, and it looks like... It looks like Doombun is playing Super Monkey Ball, so let's go drop in on them. That's not what I was expecting. Alright, have a wonderful night.